tired of being told unseen. So tired of hands that only broke. She poured her ache where none had been, and let the silence finally speak.
Tonight, in the quiet darkness of the workshop, she looked upon the small wooden figure of the fey prince she had carved from grief. The moon hung fat and silver above the shop, leaded the windows, spilling light across a workbench carved from a single ancient slab, its legs twisted like roots. Candlelight flickered gold along walls where would have been coaxed into curling vines and half-formed leaves, as though the forest outside had crept in and settled to sleep. And Mira, thick brown curls tumbling loose past her bare shoulders, a few strands catching the moonlight like they had been dusted with something delicate. Her off-the-shoulder cream dress, soft and worn at the seams, and her green eyes, rimmed red from crying. Who had not cried in front of another living soul in 11 years, let the tears come freely in front of a piece of wood. "If I know you can't hear me," she whispered, thumb tracing his tiny carved jaw. "But I wanted, just once, to make something beautiful, something that was only mine, something no one could take hammer to." Her voice cracked on the last word. A tear fell, one bright, trembling drop. The wood grain rippled like water disturbed by a stone. Mira gasped and drew back. A light bloomed from the tiny carving, golden impossibly warm, pouring upward and outward, stretching, growing, until the small workshop was too small to hold what was happening. Wood became skin, became muscle, became a man kneeling before her in the moonlight, full-sized, breathing, real, with the exact face she had shaped with her own hands. Pale hair, near white as moonlight itself, tumbled past sharp-pointed ears. Dark regal cloth, black bled through deep wine. He looked down at his own hands as though astonished to have them. Then he looked at her, and his astonishment softened into something else entirely. Recognition, tenderness, and the dreaming he always had. "You called," he said, his voice low as cello strings, "and so I came to you." She had not always cried alone. Once Mira had been a carpenter's daughter, with flower-dusted hands and a father, wind-wild white hair, a great tangled beard, deep laugh lines carved into a weathered, sun-browned face, always in his worn orange work shirt, who called her Little Chisel, who let her sand the edges of cradles and hope chests until they gleamed like river stones. But he had died when she was 14, and the workshop, along with her, had passed to an uncle, silver-haired, sharp-suited, his eyes the pale, flat blue of a closed door, who saw her only as free labor and a girl too plain to marry off for profit. 10 years she had sanded and sawed and swallowed her voice, 10 years of splinters in her palms and harsher words in her ears. Useless, slow, no wonder no man wants you. She built beautiful things, chair a duke praised, and a chest a bride wept over on her wedding day. But no one ever built anything for her. No one carved her a single kind word. So she had begun in secret at night to carve for herself small things, foolish things, a star, maybe a bird. And then one moonlight evening, after her uncle had struck her for a crooked table, she had picked up her smallest chisel and began to carve a face kind enough to be a lie, beautiful enough to be a comfort, hers enough no one could take it from her. She hadn't known that grief, poured into wood under a full moon, could be a kind of spell all of its own. Now he stood in her ruined little workshop, more real than anything that had ever been, kind to her, and reached out to catch a fresh tear before it fell. "Don't cry, little maker," he murmured, and his thumb against her cheek was warm, as though even magic remembered what her hands had shaped. "Not tonight. Tonight, let me take care of you." And he did. They danced, they kissed, at last, beneath the moon.
He was her wooden dream made warm. Her chisel's ache turned flesh and sighing. Two shadows learning one soft shape, a heartbeat found in moonlight's dying. Her hands once cracked from splinters bite, now traced a jar she'd carved from grief, and in his mouth against her own she tasted finally relief.
He learned her name like a prayer. He asked about the tools on the wall, about the scar on her wrist, about the small bird she once carved and hid behind the floorboard. He listened, truly listened, in a way no one in 11 years had thought to. And when the candle guttered low, and the workshop grew dim for moonlight, he drew her against him, as though she were something precious and not something to be used. And for the first time in her life, Mira was held like she mattered. The night was soft and slow and full of tenderness she had only ever carved, never received. Whatever magic had made him, it did not feel foreign. It felt like coming home to a place she had never been. But magic, like moonlight, does not linger. Dawn crept in, grey light across the table, and in her arms, still, lay only the small wooden figure once more, cool and still, his carved mouth caught in that same soft, almost smile. Mira did not weep this time. She pressed the figure into her heart and rose, gathering her tools with steadier hands that she had been doing for years. For she had learned the shape of the spell now. Grief and moonlight, and a laugh carved true, and somewhere in the turning of the sky, The moon was already swelling toward full again. One night was not forever, but it was a promise, and she intended to be waiting, chisel scarred, hands open, every single time.
Carved a green